So be thinking of the questions that you would like to ask them. My name is Stacy Edgington. I work at NASA headquarters in the International Space Station office, but I'm here as the vice chair for the Young Professionals Program Committee today. But let me start by introducing our astronauts. This is first Christopher Fugelsang. Dr. Fugelsang received a doctorate in experimental particle physics in 1987 and became an associate professor at the University of Stockholm. He was appointed affiliated professor at the Swedish Royal Institute of Technology in 2006. Also in 2006, Christer flew on Space Shuttle mission STS-116 to the International Space Station. He is the first Swedish astronaut to fly in space. During this mission, Christer conducted 3 spacewalks, and only 2 of which were planned as part of the mission. The unscheduled 3rd spacewalk freed the station's jammed P6 solar array. Christer's 2nd spaceflight was in 2009 on STS-128, also to space station. He made 2 spacewalks, installing an ammonia tank and preparing for the installation of the European-built Node 3 module. Christer Fugelsang.
Thank you.
Our next astronaut is Chiaki Mukai. Dr. Mukai holds both a PhD and an MD. She's a medical doctor. She graduated from Keio University School of Medicine in 1988, and she is a board-certified cardiovascular surgeon. She is currently the senior scientist at the Japanese Space Exploration Agency. Dr. Mukai has logged over 566 hours in space. She flew aboard STS-65, the 2nd International Microgravity Laboratory, in 1994. And she flew STS-95, where the crew supported a variety of research payloads, including deployment of the Spartan Solar Observing Spacecraft, the Hubble Space Telescope Orbital Systems Test Platform, and investigations on spaceflight and the aging process. That was in 1998. Chiaki is the first Japanese woman to fly in space and the first Japanese astronaut to fly twice. Dr. Mukai has many special honors and awards, not only from Japan, but from around the world. Chiaki Mukai. Next we have Sandra Magnus. Dr. Magnus is an electrical engineer and has a doctorate from the School of Material Science and Engineering from the Georgia Institute of Technology. Sandy first flew to space on shuttle mission STS-112, which delivered and installed the S1 truss. This was the 3rd piece of the space station integrated truss. She operated the station robotic arm during the 3 spacewalks required to outfit and activate this new component. In 2008, Sandy flew to the station on STS-126 and joined Space Station Expedition 18. Expedition 18 completed the upgrade to begin 6-person crew operations on Space Station. Dr. Magnus returned home on STS-119. Sandy also has the distinction of flying the last shuttle mission, STS-135, in 2011. This mission carried the multi-purpose logistics module to Space Station. Dr. Magnus is currently Executive Director of the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics. Sandy Magnus. And our 4th is Dorian Punariu. General Punariu is an aerospace engineer. In 1981, he completed an 8-day space mission on board Soyuz 40 and the Salyut 6 Space Laboratory, where they completed scientific experiments in the fields of astrophysics, space radiation, space technology, space medicine, and biology. Dorian became the 103rd human being to fly into outer space. From 1998 to 2004, Dorian was the president of the Romanian Space Agency and an associate professor on geopolitics at the Academy of Economic Studies in Bucharest, Romania. In 2000, he was awarded the highest state order of Romania, Star of Romania, in rank of Grand Officer. From 2004 until 2005, Doran was the Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of Romania to the Russian Federation. In February 2007, he retired from the Ministry of Defense with the rank of Major General. He also served as the Director of the Romanian Office for Science and Technology to the European Union in Brussels. Currently, Doran is working for the Romanian Space Agency as an expert within the Airspace Consulting Association. Doran Prunariu. So I've asked our panelists if they would each just say a few words, and I understand we have some great videos as well, just talk about their mission in space and anything else they'd like to talk about. So let's start with Christer, please.
Well, maybe I'll start a little bit with my background, because I know the question that young people often ask is, how can I become an astronaut? So my background is I got the master in physical engineering, and then I continued to study for a PhD in particle physics. Not only doing, let's say, studies, I also enjoyed life and travel. So I took a year off and sailed across the Atlantic. And when you look at people who get selected to become astronauts, it's quite often they have done something a little bit extra beyond just studies, so to say. And then also I was organized, did a lot in the social things for students, in the student unions, which I think also something which is a good on your CV, so to say, if you want to become an astronaut. And anyhow, it's good for you in life, whatever you do, by the way. I was selected as an astronaut in '92 already. And here's the next lesson, good to know, that the really needle side, that is to pass to become selected as an astronaut. And you're more or less guaranteed to fly then, unless you're really unlucky. However, you never know when. When I was selected, I was thinking, wow, great, I'll be flying in space in 4 to 5 years, at least not more than 6 to 7. Well, it took 14 years. So I was on the unlucky side. I had to wait a long time. But it's certainly worth it, definitely worth it every day. And it's not, boring. The job is very, very interesting and fun and diverse all the time. When you're training and you work with your colleagues, you support the whole space program in various ways while you're not in full-time training. But of course, the day you're sitting there in the top of the rocket, hearing the all goes and the countdown, and finally the engines gets going and shaking and you go, then it's just a fabulous feeling. You're just so happy. And 8.5 minutes later, you're in space. I mean, that's how fast it goes. You waited 14 years and then just the ride is on 8.5 minutes. But okay, then the real fun starts. You unbuckle, you float out in weightlessness, and we were 3 new flyers on the mid-deck of the shuttle. In my case, and we're just laughing. Got really be careful in the beginning how you move around. It's a new environment. Eventually, you get up and you get to see a window, and your mind gets blown out again almost when you see the beautiful Earth down there. And that was just fabulous time for 2 weeks. Of course, in my case, most exceptional was the spacewalk, being outside of the space station, floating along the side of it, seeing the Earth 360 kilometers down was just a fabulous feeling. And then coming back, and you really feel happy and proud. You have this opportunity. You've been working with people. It's kind of sad to leave the station and your crew. You've been working together for a long time. It was great. But you're also very happy that you prepared for a long time to do an important job. And it's kind of front line of our technology to build this fabulous space station up there, and being part of it just makes you happy. Thanks.
Thanks, Christer. Chiaki.
Yes, okay. Hi, good afternoon, good morning. I'm Chiaki Mukai from Japan. When I was a child, there was no space program in Japan. Even the human space program in Japan So to be an astronaut or to fly into space was not a realistic dream of mine. And I grew up in a rice field in a very, very nice place, but nobody knew that in future the Japanese people would be able to soar into space. So my first dream was to become a medical doctor, because my brother had a difficulty to walk. He couldn't walk without having other people's assist. I was so sorry for him, so I wanted to help the people suffering from diseases. So that was my first dream. But of course, when I became 32 years old, almost the same age of your mom, I guess, maybe not, or maybe then suddenly Japanese government said, we need somebody who would fly into space to do some science or medicine or engineering. We wanted to utilize the space. So then I was so stunned, surprised, because I was working very hard in the hospital. At the same time, the technology has advanced in a way that the people ordinarily working on the ground would be able to soar into space. Then I applied it because I really wanted to see our home planet from space. And I thought that that great experience would maybe expand my way of thinking, because I really wanted to know something I have never seen. I really wanted to learn something I never learned. So the space program made me find out my second dream, like I would soar into space to our home planet. And then I was lucky enough that I pursued my second dream. So I flew 2 times, but because my reason to be an astronaut was to utilize the space for science, education, engineering, medicine, many things for the people living on the earth. So 2 missions are related to the science mission. The first one, 1994, is called International Microgravity, the second mission, which had a lot of payloads. We call it payloads, the number of the experiments, and 50% from Europe, 25 from US, and then the rest of them from Japan area. And then the second flight, that was a 2 weeks mission, 1994. And I was so happy because the laboratory on board was my place to work. This is a great, oh, this is my office. Then the second time was I had also great pleasure to fly with Senator John Glenn. And John Glenn is the US original 7 astronaut. And then the mission was seeking the similarity and differences between the aging process and something happened in the microgravity on our body. And because my background is medicine, I was very much interested in working many medical experiments related to the aging process and the physical phenomena happening on Earth, on the microgravity. So I was very much fascinated by the microgravity environment, which means no gravity or very small amount of the gravity, because our body is shaped in a way which fits to the gravity. So the space station or any orbiting facility gives us a very wonderful laboratory capability which we can learn about the gravity. So I'm still working for Japanese Space Agency as the head of the Center of Applied Medicine, Medicine and Human Research. So I enjoy my job, and my dream is to expand the space program, not only the professional astronaut to fly into, but anybody who wishes to fly. I think the space medicine and medical issue is the one that it enables the people who wish to fly to make their dream happen. So that's what I'm right now working. Thank you. Thank you, Chiaki.
Sandy.
So I would like to spend some time trying to explain the difference between visiting space and living in space. I've been very fortunate that I've been able to live on the space station for 4.5 months. And it's a very different experience than visiting space for 2 weeks or 10 days. And it has a lot to do with how you adapt to being in space and a little bit about human nature as well. So for example, when you're visiting, when you're on a mission that's an 8-day, 10-day, 12-day, 14-day mission, the first thing that you must consider is that you're very, very busy. You have a very short period of time to be in space, and the mission planners have planned many, many tasks for that very short period of time. And usually you get behind because something always doesn't go exactly the way you planned. So you're very, very busy, and you don't have as much time as you would like to look out the window, although we all make time, usually because we choose not to sleep, and we look out the window. But it's still just a momentary glimpse. Perhaps you can watch the world go by one revolution, 1 hour and a half, or perhaps you can do that 2 or 3 times. And so but you feel always the pressure that you must get your tasks done because you're going home soon, and so it's hard to just relax and enjoy being in space. When you live there, the pressure of doing your work exists, but you know you'll be there next week, you'll be there the week after that, you'll be there the month after that, and so it's a little bit of a different environment. And you're able to relax and enjoy space. So I really feel when I lived on the space station that I moved to space. Just like moving to a different country or moving to a different city, I moved to space. And you start to adapt. So much so that I remember, let me back up a minute. As human beings, we tend to establish routines. We all have a routine in the morning where you get up, you take a shower, you eat breakfast, you get in your car, or you get on the bus, you go to work, you eat lunch, you come home, you do some things in the evening. And this is a pattern that you get into that you automatically just perform every day. You don't think about it. I got into such a pattern in space. It's very amazing how human beings are so adaptable. It was very normal for me to be floating around. It was very normal to have to just be careful of where I put my things so they don't float away. It became so normal for me and so unordinary for me to be in space, I forgot to look out the window. I spent 2 weeks just working. I'd get up, I'd work, I'd eat lunch, I'd exercise, I'd do something in the evening and go to bed. This was after about 2 months on space station. For a 2-week period, I didn't look out the window, and then I stopped myself one day and I thought, my goodness, I'm in space. I need to look out the window. This is not normal. You know? So it's really a very interesting thing with human beings, how we adapt very much to our environment. This can be a very good thing because it means that when you come up to a new situation, you will adapt easily to that new situation. But this can be a bad thing because as you get into your routine, perhaps that's not a good routine to be in, and you don't think about it. So this is both a good and a bad thing that we are so adaptable. So that was something that I observed while I was living on space station. But it was a very interesting lifestyle on space station. We would get up in the morning and we'd have our time to get ready for work, and then we'd have our daily planning conference, and we'd talk to Moscow, we'd talk to Houston, we'd talk to Huntsville, we'd talk to Scuba, and we'd talk to Munich. And we'd talk to everybody around the world, and then we would start our work. And our work could be involved with anybody from any one of those control centers doing any kind of maintenance or science experiments with people all over the world. So really it is a very international experience. And it's a lot of fun to be able to interact with people from all over the world all the time on this very grand project that we have in space. And I'll just say, I think you're listening to someone from Sweden, someone from Japan, someone from the United States, and someone from Romania. We don't really consider ourselves only citizens of our country. We consider ourselves citizens of the world. Because when you get on orbit and you look down at the Earth, you then identify yourself as a person of the Earth. and not just a person of a particular country. You identify yourself, I am a human being from Earth. And so we all share a very special bond. And if you listen to anybody who has flown in space, you will get the same perspective. You will get the same idea. It's very, very interesting how having that experience of flying in space and seeing the Earth changes your perception and your idea of who we are. And I find that very interesting as well. But now some funny stories. So one of the things that's very fun about flying in space is living without gravity, because you can float around all the time. You can do things that you cannot do on Earth. I mean, you can hang from the ceiling, hang off of the wall. You can very easily move large objects around. It's very, very good. But you have to think carefully about what you're doing, because if we look at these tables here up front, there's water bottles, and I have some stickers, and our name tags are sitting here on these tables. And they're staying there because gravity is helping them down. In space, you have to always be aware of your stuff, of your pencils and your notebooks and your computers and your hairbrush, and you have to very carefully imagine where you're going to put it. You need Velcro, you need bungees, you need tape, you need pockets that have zippers in them, otherwise things will float out of your pockets. And so it's extremely easy to lose things in space. If you ever see an astronaut on TV when you're looking at them in space and they're doing this, it means they just lost something. Because things just float away and they can be lost forever. So you really have to be very, very aware of the things that you use in everyday life. And so we use gravity to our advantage that way, because you can put things down on a table and they stay there. And in space that does not happen. So you have to adapt to living there. And like I said, it's a lot of fun, and you do adapt very well. So I'm going to stop there, but hopefully I've given you something to think about for the questions. Thanks, Sandy.
Lauren.
Okay, me. Let's start my presentation.
Oh, okay. Let's see.
Well, just to continue what Sandy says, when I was launched into space many years ago, 32 years ago, on board Soyuz 14, inside the spaceship, I felt like during my training lessons, everything was exactly like in the simulator. And just push once and leave it.
We'll get on.
Okay, no problem.
No, that's good. I just
After several hours of space flight, a lot of work, space maneuvers and so on, we went to sleep. When I woke up next day, I was just convinced that I'm at home, I have to wake up and to go to work. And when I wanted to get out from the bed, so named bed, I noted that I float. And then for a few seconds I was so confused where I am and why am I up there. And then I just remind myself that, okay, yesterday I was launched into space, I'm in a real mission. I'm not at the simulator, I'm in a real mission, and I have to work up there. You just have a few images from my training and space flight. They are just running. Okay, when you come back from a space flight, if you are not directly connected with a profession that you have to continue with, it's very difficult to face a lot of challenges. For instance, I was an aerospace engineer working in a factory. Just before I was sent to Russia to the Soviet Union at that time for my training, I was proposed by the Air Force to become an active officer. I already had school, I graduated from a school of reserve officers, and I said yes. Okay, a lot of advantages, they double my civilian salary and so on. I was married, I had already 2 boys. When I came back from the space flight, the Air Force didn't know exactly what to do with me. I was specialized in the field that was very new for Romania, and even if we intended to continue with manage space flights, it was not planned in the next future, in the near future. So they let me take part in all space activities in the country. They let me take part in all research activities. And also they obliged me to take part in a lot of military activities. I was pretty busy in that time. In 1990, I was proposed to become the head of the civil aviation department. Of course, they pressed, they pushed, they convinced me, and I said yes. For 1.5 years, I was at a very high level, Deputy Minister of Transportation and head of the civil aviation department, dealing with completely new things for me. The civil aviation is completely different than the military aviation. New rules, new international regulations. I had to learn. I had a fellowship in Canada to do the things properly. I came back, then new situation, new political leaders, they moved me back to the Air Force. For a period of time also, the Air Force didn't know exactly what to do with me and where to put me. And bottom line, in 1998, I became the president of the Romanian Space Agency. In 1991, we organized a new space agency in Romania. I was part of that organization from outside the system, let's say. In 1998, I was moved from the Ministry of Defense to the Ministry of Research and Education, doing exactly what I wanted to do. To be involved directly in space activities, to take decisions, to involve the space agency at the international level. We signed the first agreement with ESA. Now, from 2 years, we are full members of the European Space Agency. But I stayed there till 2004, when the Ministry of Foreign Affairs convinced me to go to Russia as an ambassador. They said, okay, you speak Russian, you know very well the environment, you know very well the people, the culture. You was trained there, you are a hero in the Soviet Union. Now Russia accepts you as a messenger of Romania, as a very representative messenger. Okay, I accepted. I went there till a new political turmoil party in Romania. I came back and started to work very closely with the UN. Actually, I started to represent Romania within the UN in 1992, within the Committee on the Peaceful Use of Outer Space. Then, in time, I was much involved in a lot of activities of this committee, and in 2004, I was elected the chairman of the Scientific and Technical Subcommittee of this committee in 2006, and in 2010, I became the chairman of the full committee for 2 years. At the same time, I want to tell you one thing. When I graduated from the aerospace engineering faculty in Bucharest, I said, okay, I learned enough, now I have to work during my full life. It was not like that. In 2 years, I was selected for cosmonauts, and I had to accomplish a 3-year training, preparation, courses, exams in a different language. I had to learn Russian to be trained there. I was the first elected from Romania and I flew into space. Then I came back, I did my PhD, another 3 years of exams, learning. Then I graduated from the National Defense College in Romania. It's a college that prepares high leaders in economical, political, social things. Another half a year of learning, exams. Then just a hazard in Romania in that time to become a general, you had to pass some exams and also to accomplish some special studies. I did it for another half a year. I became a general. Then I said, maybe it's enough. No, it was not enough. Even 1 month ago, I gave a written assessment for a position within the UN. So all my life, by the way, I'm very happy to spend a part of my birthday with you today. I was supposed to forget about it. So I'm 61 and I'm still giving exams and being involved in learning and of course in teaching some other people. So this is my activity after a space flight. Of course, if you have questions, I'm very glad to answer.
Thank you, Dorian. And we didn't forget that it is your birthday. Everybody here signed this card for you to tell
really?
you happy
Thank you very
birthday.
much. Thank you.
So thank you for spending it.
You may
with
stop
us.
it because it runs again.
I will.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are
Yes,
going
thank you.
to open.
At the same time, I want to tell you one thing. All of us here are members of the Association of Space Explorers. As Sandy said, when you fly into space, you are not only the citizen of your country, you become a world citizen. All of us, we are citizens of this planet Earth. And having this feeling, we organized in 1985 a professional and educational association of all astronauts and cosmonauts in the world. And I want to tell you that exactly today, I was given the certificate of membership of our association within the International Astronautical Federation. So we work from many years in this field. Every year we organize international congresses in different countries. And I'm glad to say that next year Congress will be here in China. Thank you.
Okay, and now we are opening up to you all. So do you have questions for our panel? Okay, I didn't think you would be shy. Please, in the front row.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a question for Ms. Mukai. Because Mr. Chairman has introduced that you are engaged in the study of the influence of the space to cardiovascular systems. I want to know, in your study, do you have some remarkable evidence that the influence of the microgravity is different to male and female astronauts? This is the first question. And the second question is that because we are all hope that human beings will have the human Mars exploration missions in the future. Since you are studying in space medicine field, that and also the journey from the Earth to the Mars is very long. Do you think it is possible for the future in the Mars spaceship to have some surgery operations if some emergency case happen? Surgery. Thank you.
Okay, in short, the first question, cardiovascular system, in terms of the differences between the men and women, I can tell it's not a lot of difference, but some researchers are interested in the orthostatic intolerance. The orthostatic intolerance is when you stand up, your blood pressure goes down. And then your the systemic the vasculature try to bring the blood pressure up, and then that system, maybe the women might have some kind of a little bit different way to respond to increase the blood pressure, because women try to respond to increase the heart rate to bring the pressure up, and then the men try to constrict the vessels to bring the heart rate, blood pressure up. That's one, maybe a little bit difference. But as a whole, the blood pressure stays same. And then the hormonal condition is also the other one. The progesterone, or that's women hormone. Hormone is only for women's body, and then that also affects to the fluid retention. So that's also the one that is maybe a little bit difference between men and women. And going to the Mars, I think this is quite a lot of people believe we can do it. But to do that, there are so many things that we have to overcome. And there's a big chart. If you just go to the NASA's roadmap, there's many obstacles, challenges listed. And then it says we have done so far this. Okay, we can give a green light, or we still need to do more, and yellow. And then the some part we haven't even decided how we can do it. It's a red mark. But there are so many things listed to overcome to go to Mars. But we believe we can do it.
But how about the surgery? Maybe you know that in traditional for chemical propulsion system, if we want to come to Mars and come back, maybe we need 1.5 years or even more. So during the long period, although that in the Mir missions, the Russian cosmonauts have performed 400-day and 437-day duration in space, but they can come back to the Earth at any moment. Because they are in low Earth orbit. Well, for Mars mission, there will be no other ground support, and you can, if something dangerous or even you are seriously ill, you have no chance to come back to the Earth. So, do you think it is necessary to have a doctor on board, the Mars spaceship, and for some emergency cases, if somebody is very seriously ill, and to have this kind of surgery? Yes, do you think it is necessary?
The Mars mission is totally different from the low Earth orbit mission, including the Moon mission. Because the Moon, you can take only 3 days to go, and you can still expect the support from the Earth. But Mars is very much independent, needs to be independent. Autonomy is the one it is required. So not only the medical doctor, but good engineer in case rocket has something wrong. You won't have some good engineer to fix it, right? So I think we don't know how many people, maybe 4 to 6 people will go to Mars. But everybody needs to be trained very well. In a way, it represents the entire the people from the Earth, in terms of the people and also the professions, because that is a small kind of Earth to going to the Mars. But we believe we can do it with our knowledge.
Thank you.
Hello, I have 2 questions. My first question is for Mr. Brister. You said that you've waited many years before going to space. So I want to ask, in the process of waiting, have you thought of giving up? And my second question is for Sandy Magnus. You said that the space experience have changed your perception about who you are. So I want to ask, after the space experience, your perspective about life has changed. Thank you.
Well, my answer is very short. It's no. I never thought of giving up.
He's Swedish, doesn't talk so much.
Oh no. Here. Oh God. You are absorbing some energy, I guess.
Yes.
I have bad luck with microphones today. So I commented that going to space changes your perspective a bit, and I think we've all discussed how we feel more as an Earth citizens and associated with our countries, although we of course associate with our countries. But also I think seeing the planet from space the way that we have gives us an appreciation for the planet and the life that it supports. For example, when you walk outside this building and you feel the sun on your face, you don't think about it. It's always there. It's normal for you to have the sun on your face, or to feel the breeze come by, or to smell the earth, you know, with that moist kind of damp smell of soil. Don't take that for granted. So we have been in a place where we were living in a tin can, you know, in a metal can with artificial atmosphere. And when you come back, it's funny, after my 4.5 months on the space station, we landed on the runway in Florida, and they opened the hatch to the shuttle to let us out. A breeze came through the hatch, and I was very excited. I said to my crewmates, "Wow, that's a breeze. That's really spectacular." And they looked at me like I was very strange, but I had been 4.5 months with no breeze. So the next time you go outside and you feel the sun on your face, or you have a breeze come by and you feel it touch your face, or you are listening to water in the stream or the oceans, realize that that's very special. And that's our planet, and we must take care of it. It looks very, very fragile from space. Do not take it for granted. So that's the biggest lesson I think that I saw.
Sandy. Next question.
So thank you and welcome to China again. I have 2 simple questions for 4 of you, so please answer me one by one. The first question is, if there is another opportunity to go back to space, do you want to go? And the second question is, what is your opinion about the Chinese aerospace industry and technology? If you have the opportunity to go back to space, do you want to take Chinese spacecraft? Okay, that's all. Thank you very much.
Okay. Well, yes, I would definitely go back, and I wouldn't mind go with Chinese spacecraft either. Although the worst challenge would be to learn Chinese, I guess. It's hard enough to learn Russian. But I have good trust in the Chinese space program. I think it is developing very impressive, a very steady pace, which with very curiosity looking forward to your next achievements and see where we get.
Yeah, of course, I would like to go back to the first question. The second one, first of all, I love Chinese food, so I really want to go to the Chinese the rocket if you wish, if you extend the invitation. And then basically, I think I always impressed by the Chinese space program because you have a successful long march rocket more than 150 times send the satellite. And then I always, I used to, I teach quite a lot of young students in the International Space University. Chinese participants, they have a shiny eyes, have a lot of dream, a lot of hope for the future. So I feel some energy from those Chinese young students. So I think this is a great power for a great asset, for great resource for this country, and not only this country, but for the people on the earth to making the successful space program. That's what I think.
So yes, of course, I would like to go back. I think it would be very unusual to find an astronaut who will say no to that question. And I think you will find that we will go back on any vehicle that you give us to go back on. But with respect to the Chinese space program, it's very impressive how much China has accomplished in, since 2003, especially when the first launch happened to today. And I think there's a bright future because China has very strong planning and the national desire and the ability to do the long-term planning that is required to have a very strong space program. And like Krister, it would be challenging to learn Chinese. I'd like to learn Chinese, but that would be a barrier, I think. But I would love to go. It's so wonderful to be up there. It's like a home that you can never go to again when you don't get to go to space anymore. So I would definitely go back.
Actually, I fully agree with anything that was said by my colleagues. In addition, I want to say that I had some official discussions a few days ago with Chinese representatives of the space field, and they said that when China will have all infrastructure set up into space, I mean the new space station, the big one, they definitely will look for international cooperation and for having astronauts and cosmonauts from the international community, let's say. So I wish to fly once again into space. I'm just thinking that when John Glenn flew second time was only 16 years older than I am now, so I have full time to do it. But I don't know exactly who will send me again.
You're already doing the lobby work fine with the Chinese, I can hear. You're talking to the Chinese.
I think that I will be able to learn Chinese. I remember that my first language in the school was French. I did French 12 years. I speak, no problems. My second language was German. I learned 4 years German. I didn't practice and I lost a lot. But my third language was Russian. I was obliged to learn Russian to fly into space, and Russian became my second language. And then I learned English, because without English at international level, you don't do anything now. So, Chinese could be one more language. Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Mosquito.
Thank you. As every one of you had mentioned China, I want to say something. Because I know Mr. Dojin has joined the HSPI workshop, a few weeks ago. Yes. And I think Sandy and Ms. Chika has contracted with our female astronauts Wang Yaping and Liu Yang yesterday or the day before yesterday. My first question is, what kind of press our Chinese astronauts given to you? And I know the next Space Explorer meeting will held in China. Yes, and how do you evaluate the role of the communication between the astronauts? Yes. The second question is that I know on ISS, all kinds of education projects are being taken, and I want to know, and to be as an astronaut, what do you think, what kind of the programs or the activities is most popular to the students, and except the talk to them through the video or and what kind of other program may be taken to be used to the education. I don't know whether if I impressed clearly.
Well, you should probably speak to the first question.
So I think you have 3 questions?
She has 2 questions for the 2 women astronauts, but...
So Dorian is the president of the Association of Space Explorers, so he should take the
I think everyone will join if you have interest.
Okay, the education question of, yes, the education question regarding, okay. The Association of Space Explorers is not only a professional forum for astronauts and cosmonauts, but it's also an educational association. Every time when we have congresses in different countries, we dedicate one day, that's the name Community Day, to meeting students, researchers, even students from the high school, to have lectures, to interact with them, to have a dialogue, and to really trick them to look for the space and to be focused on this activity. And I'm sure we're successful because the audience is huge. And the young people are very, very interested to find new things about a space career. How to become a cosmonaut, how to fly into space, what happened there, what is our experience. With regard to your last question, I could give you an answer. To become a cosmonaut or an astronaut, the first necessary thing is to find yourself in the right place, in the right time, to take part in the selection. Whatever profession do you have. And then, if you are successful, and it was my case, actually, I couldn't be outside of all this process in Romania because the process was not so wide public. The selected team was from the Army in the beginning, from the Air Force engineers. Then they expand the selection to engineers that accomplished the military service in that time. I was one of them. And they expanded a little bit the selection at the researchers in the field of aviation. No more. And they found, of course, the necessary persons to be trained and to be sent into space. So, to be in the right time, in the right place is very important. So now I leave you to answer.
I believe your question for Chiaki.
And now Luca Parmitano, the European space astronaut who is on board the space station, also does the same thing. Time by time he sends images to internet, and everybody could access them and feel that they are involved in the activity on board the space station.
Yeah, almost everybody's doing that now. It's really nice with the social media allowing astronauts and people on the station to connect directly to the population. We weren't able to do that when we were...
Yeah, I was at table in 81. We didn't have internet, we didn't have Facebook, we didn't have Twitter and so on.
Thanks. Please.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I would like to touch again a little bit on your thoughts about citizen of the world, and indeed you have experienced a very privileged experience. Being in space must be extremely nice, but also this week here in Beijing showed again that we are far away from going into space as one world, as one planet Earth, whereas the space programs running in parallel. But on the other side, it was also stressed this week that any international or any endeavor beyond low Earth orbit has to be an international endeavor. So going to the moon or going to the Mars would certainly require a lot of international collaboration. Now, what do you think, if we go there, beyond low Earth orbit, how can we go as one planet, as one world, as one citizen of the world? Because, of course, your special privileged experience also comes along with special responsibility. So what do you think you can actively contribute to make us all going as one world to outer space and far beyond low Earth orbit? Thank you very much.
You can start.
You need to talk a lot. So.
No, well, it's a very hard question. The problem is to find, of course, the real motivation to politicians why to give money into this. And if you look historically, I mean, money is found if there's profit to gain. There's not normally been historically a lot of money if it's only to find knowledge. I mean, you need a profit to gain, or you need to make a strong political statement, for example, which was the reason why there was the moon mission. So the United States felt they needed to make a strong statement to the world that we are better than the Soviet Union in space. Today, I guess fortunately we don't have that situation. So then we need to convince the politicians that it's good for humanity to go to Mars, and I'm convinced, I think everybody except some top US brass are convinced that it has to go via the moon, because we need to learn things again, how to land another planet, heavenly body, and it also makes sense to build up the infrastructure. And if we can convey that this combination of reasons, that exploration for the vision of humanity to be able to live on other bodies than the Earth, that the knowledge we gain through these, combined with the challenges which drives new technological innovations and developments, which will be good also for people on Earth. And again, this inspirational factor, which we know we have for young people, having this possibility to know that, wow, I can be part of this, going to the moon, to the Mars. Maybe we can convince that we can get a political situation that we can get enough money. But on the other hand, I must say I'm not completely against some competition either, because competition has the advantage that it kind of sharpens the mind, it pushes people to do a little bit more. So, it might be that maybe it's competition which we eventually will make it. And if someone figures out that they can make a lot of money by going to the moon and to Mars, then we'll go very soon.
Thanks.
One more thing I could add here. The international cooperation is very much favorized by the mutual knowledge of each other. I mean, by instance, this Congress in China opened the doors for so many new cooperations with China and with other countries. As better we know each other, as better is to start to work together. If we have different suspicions about each other's program, of course we become close, we become like a black box, and we don't leave the cooperation to be developed. But so the space programs mainly belong to the space agencies. Okay, it exists the European space agencies that unified now the interest of Europe and of the 20 member states of the European Space Agency in space activities. For instance, the European Space Agency has very good cooperation with Russia, has a lot of negotiations with China. Even we intend to send some experiments on board the future space station, if the agreement will be signed, but we are on the way to negotiate all these things. For the first time during this visit, I had the opportunity to visit the Space Center, to visit some facilities, to see what is inside, and to not have doubts about different sides of the program. Okay, each nation has its own national interest and national security issues that are solved through the space programs. But if we are open with the civilian programs, if we try to know each other much better than we know now, we sign cooperation agreements and they favorize a new cooperation, and in the end we reach what you proposed. Look, the International Space Station, it's an endeavor made by 16 countries, including Russia, United States, the former, let's say, enemies of space. And now they have a very good cooperation on the civilian space.
Yeah, I'd like to emphasize that point. We talk a lot about the benefit of the space station program for science and technology and living in space. One of the intangible, very hard to measure benefits of the space station program is the fact that you have all of these countries working together to do this amazingly complex engineering project, that these countries have been able to work together for 20 years now to establish the station, operate the station across differing national agendas, which may put them at odds in other areas besides space exploration, different languages, different measurement systems, so you got English and metric, and on all these other complications that arise when you work across national borders. The space station program has been able to sort of overcome all of that. And it's what it's doing is it's bringing people together in a way that Dorian and Krister mentioned, that they get to know each other, and we have ways now of working together. It's a good model. And we're not going to realize the benefits of this fully for 10 more years or 20 more years. So it's going to be a very long-term, intangible benefit. And I would like to comment on your question about how we feel our responsibility is. And I think you see that in us sitting up here today and sharing our experiences and making the points that we make. I think all of us who have flown in space, members of the Association of Space Explorers, feel it's important to go and talk to people around the world like we're doing here, like we do at our congresses around the world, and share our experiences and open people's minds to the fact that this is a very international effort and it is working. You know, human beings, we're very impatient. We want the answers tomorrow. This is going to take some time, and we're slowly moving in the right direction, and we will continue to speak out in this way through the IAF, now that we're members, as well as at our congresses around the world.
Thanks, Anna. And let's go to this side of the room. I think we have this young lady right here.
Good morning. I have two questions to feed my curiosity. When you look out the window of the spaceship from the side against the Earth, can you see the sun is dazzling, or the star is shining, or just the darkness surrounding you? And the second one is, since the the weight of the spaceship is limited, so you can't carry enough water. So how did you solve this?
Same, but there's never any cloud there to take it away. And the stars, you do see more stars, and they don't twinkle because the twinkling is due to the atmosphere. I haven't counted, but I heard a number that in principle you can see about 3 times more stars when you're in space about that. When it comes to water, we recycle water. So I mean, the urine goes into a purification system and can be used again. We sweat and things like that, and that goes into a condensation system, gets picked up and dried out and from there and reused again. I think that the percentage we use on the station are around 80% or something like that.
Yeah.
So that way we don't need to bring up as much water. However, a very interesting kind of side note to this is that as long as the shuttle was flying to the space station, there was never a problem with water. Because the shuttle has water as the waste product. It doesn't have a solar rays. It uses the fuel cells to create the electrical energy. So it launched with liquid hydrogen, liquid oxygen, and then went through a fuel cell to get the electricity, and the byproduct, the waste, was water. Much more water than the crew on board could drink. And that water was then given to the space station. So they got a lot of water that way during the shuttle time. But, okay, now we have to send up the water with Progress, ATV, HTV, one of these cargo ships we have. So we really need to be careful with the water on board.
Good, thanks. Oh.
Unfortunately, I have to leave. I have to take part in the General Assembly of the IAF. I just ran here to meet you, and now I have to go back as the president of the Association of Space Explorers. Some decisions have to be taken there, and I'm part of them. Thank you very much, and see you next year.
Thank you, Doran, and happy birthday again. Okay, well, we still have a few minutes left.
Yes, that's
So maybe 1 or 2 more questions. Let's go to the back here.
Hello everyone, good morning. I just want to know what are your experiences of EVA? How does it feel to actually do an extravehicular activity in space?
Krista, that's you. I haven't done one, and Chucky hasn't done one. Yeah. EVA.
Oh, EVA.
What's it like?
You cannot eat when you do EVA. But that's good. Yeah, it's a special feeling because you're really more out in space than... That's the ultimate space trip, so to say. The EVA suit is really a one-man space ship. You have everything in your spacesuit to keep a human being alive against the space. So you need to be very careful then with this one-man spaceship to make sure that you understand it. If something goes wrong, you need to be very careful that you don't lose your grip on the space station because in principle you can float away. But you always have a lot of security systems. So you have a safety tether, and even if that would fail, there's actually kind of a safety rocket unit, small one on the back of your spacesuit, you can fly yourself back. So the feeling is when you go outside the hatch, the first time you really feel, I better be very careful, and better make sure I don't do a mistake, I don't want to lose the grip on the space station. But after a while you kind of get more comfortable, you get used to it, and that is just a very feeling of freedom. You float around there, you see the earth. At the same time that you do, you really concentrate on the work. You want to make sure you don't do mistakes, and still it happens. I lost a tooth, for example, or part of a tooth. We try to work very, very carefully with tethers. Everything you handle has a tether to it. But sometimes still you have to, untether and tether if you move around and something can go wrong. It's not very physically demanding. you get tired in your hands mainly because the gloves is maybe the most critical part. I mean, you work against the pressure which you have inside the suit, which is about 1/3 of the normal atmospheric pressure. But outside nothing, so you have an overpressure of 1/3 of the atmosphere. And so it's kind of hard to work your hands. And some things outside sometimes it will be hard. It's manual mechanical work, some of the parts. But mainly you get tired in your head. Because typically EVA lasts for 6 hours, maybe 7 hours, and you try to concentrate all the time. But it's a great experience. I hope you get a chance.
Thanks. Okay, one question right here. Ben, please.
Dr. Magnet, you mentioned you went to Beijing University yesterday or the day before yesterday. Actually, I'm a student in Beijing University, and my late welcome. I hope you had a great time over there. It seems like everyone has 2 questions, so I have 2 questions also. My first question is for you all. What's the hardest thing you've ever done in space in your mission? Was there something when you were adapting to life in space, or was something when you were doing an experiment or your research? And my second question is for Dr. Magnus. I would like to hear, how did you adapt to life on Earth when you came back from space? Any interesting stories for us? Thank you.
Actually, that is I'll go ahead and answer that, because that is an interesting thing. You know, when I was going into space, I was worried about adapting to space because it was a new environment. And you want, of course, as a new person going to space, you want to be able to adapt very quickly so you can do your work, so your crew knows that you can be helpful. I was never worried about adapting back to Earth because I lived there my whole life. And I think one of the most interesting things about being an astronaut, besides seeing our planet from space, is getting the understanding of gravity that we now have. Because you don't realize it, but this is very hard to do, to raise your hand. There is a force field called gravity, which is trying to take your arm and do this, and force it to the ground. It's amazing how very strong, very oppressive, very horrible this force field is. So when you are living on orbit, even for 10 days or 6 days or 8 days, you adapt to zero gravity. It feels very normal. You feel like you've been in zero gravity forever, and that's just your life. And then you come back. And during re-entry, you start to feel gravity. And it's amazing. And I remember thinking, even after 10 days in space, as we were returning to the planet, I remember thinking, oh my goodness, I cannot believe we function in this force field every day. And I felt very heavy. And so it's really interesting to understand gravity from the viewpoint that we understand gravity. So readapting after the long duration space flight was very interesting because I felt very heavy for 2 weeks. 5 or 6 o'clock in the afternoon, I wanted to lie down because my body was tired, because I had to stand up all day. I had to work in the gravity field all day, and my body had to reset the energy level that I needed to do that. And it took about 2 weeks. Now we have a 6 weeks rehabilitation program that we go through after a long duration mission where we work 2 to 3 hours a day with a physical trainer, and I went through all that. But just the insight, the perception shift or understanding of what gravity is was very interesting. In answer to your first question, the most difficult thing I found was sleeping. And I think most people find it difficult to sleep in space. And again, it's because you're used to having gravity hold you down to your bed. So sleeping on your side or your back or your stomach has some meaning. What I did in space was I bungeed myself into my sleeping bag, and I was able to sleep. So I will pass it to Chiaki.
To me, my flight was short mission, like 2 weeks. So the hardest time was managing time. managing time, because so many things is happening at the same time parallelly. Like I think you have done some experiment on your laboratory, and when you do your experiment, maybe experiment A, preparation, and then setting up the devices, and then do some experiment, put them away and clean up, and then it goes like serially, right? In space, we need to do a multiple operation, A experiment, A, B, C, D, so many experiments going at the same time. You have to prepare A for this time. You have to go to E experiment to do something, and then have to 5 minutes later you have to go to the C experiment to clean up or talk to the scientist. So you have to organize so many tasks at the same time. It is a challenge, but it's so fun. But at the same time, I really wanted to make sure that all experiments went very well, because the scientists are preparing for do one particular experiment for many years. I don't want to fail it, so all of them. And I have almost 100 experiments on board. So managing time to talk to the scientists, talk to the people on the ground, and they keep changing the procedures, changing the settings, something like that. So every time or every minute we need to incorporate the changes coming from on the ground. So, but it's challenging, fun, but it was a very the hardest time.
Oh, yes, I can give two answers. One was maybe from an objective point of view, some tasks during the EVAs were pretty difficult. I mean, you train a lot, but then you get up there and there's things which are not really as they're supposed to be. I remember one electrical connector was extremely hard, and I really had to use all the forces I could muster and just barely manage it. So that, to some extent, was hardest in one way of the world. Another thing which I found hard, definitely in the beginning and even through the project stage, like maybe you got used to it, I was going to the toilet, not for number one, but for number two.
Well, thank you so much. I'm afraid we have to end this session, but the astronauts, maybe you would like an autograph or something like that, maybe take a picture with them. We need to, however, move out of this room. This is a very busy room, so they have another program coming in. So if everybody would move out to the lobby area. But let's tell our astronauts thank you so much for spending this time with us.